We are live. We are live. It's October 17th, week 8 of the college football season 2022 version. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. I'm going to give a minute for everybody to come on into the comments section. Everybody's welcome. Everybody, even Badger fans, are welcome here at College Football's Peek Around the Corner. I just felt this was a good night to do some talking college football. The carnage of week 7. It just blew everything up. When we were going into week 7, it felt like it was going to be a special week of football in the 2002 season. And that is exactly what we got. The USC-Utah game, a thriller. An absolute thriller. Utah wins 43-42. And of course, the Tennessee game we've talked about on today's episode. I had to sing Rocky Top. I blew everybody's eardrums out. I apologize for that. If you missed it, it was probably good that you missed it. But if you want to watch it, it's episode, I believe, 76 on the YouTube channel. We had Oklahoma State TCU. TCU wins in overtime. And there's some late breaking news this evening that we can talk about. Spencer Sanders, Oklahoma State's great quarterback. Sounds like he's got a little bit of a shoulder injury. It sounds like he's had it for a few weeks. Mike Gundy doesn't want to talk about it, which is typical for a college football head coach. They do not want to talk about their injuries. An interesting side note on that. Eventually, first let me know if we are looking good for the chat. If the audio and video is good. An interesting side note on that. The Big 12, ACC, Big 10, SEC, Pac-12, they're all working on these deals, right? They're all working on these deals with these consortiums of sports books, DraftKings and whatnot, Vegas, Atlantic City, and these individual state. But they're going to work with not just a couple specifically, but a bundle of them, a consortium of them. They're working on a deal where they provide real data, real life data, real time data to these sports books. And in return, the sports books, they're going to sign a package deal, and in return, the sports book is going to get a slice of the revenue that's being bet on these particular conference games. So in other words, just take SEC for example, they're working on a real time data being sent to sports books, statistics and injuries, right? Injuries. That is what we believe is what's going on. And the sports book's this consortium of sports books is going to give SEC a big slice of the revenue pie yearly. Same thing going on with Big 10, Pac-12, Big 12. I think we're going to be hearing about all this real soon going into the 2023 season. Which means, this stuff about Spencer Sanders sounds all good. Thanks, Pat. Coaches are always going to hide injuries somewhat, right? I mean, that's what they do. They do that in the NFL. But I think there's going to have to be some sort of reporting of injuries, of potential injuries, once these deals are made. Going forward and depth charts and everything. So that's going to be interesting. But anyways, just wanted to touch note on that. Big games in week 7. Week 8, we have Oklahoma State, Texas traveling to Oklahoma State in Stillwater. So can Spencer Sanders play that game? It's very questionable, which means Mike Gundy's son, I forget his name, you can let me know in the comment section, would be probably the starter for Oklahoma State versus Texas. And that's an important game because Oklahoma State and Texas both are dreaming of still getting into that Big 12 championship game. Oklahoma State Cowboys want a rematch with TCU. Texas want to get in there. Oklahoma's down. So there's an opportunity here. Baylor won it last year. Baylor seems to be out. They had an injury to their starting quarterback. A lot of injuries in the Big 12 and throughout the country. So we can talk about all that. We can talk about on my episode today, where Big 12, more information. In fact, we're going to start out with the Big 12. More information about their positioning and their current media negotiations with their current media companies, media partners, Fox and ESPN. I just find it, even though everyone talked about it, I don't think they talked about the nugget of information that was most important. And that is, Fox is willing to, they're going to block Oklahoma and Texas from leaving the Big 12 early. So now, Oklahoma and Texas are scheduled to leave the Big 12 to join the SEC in 2025. July 1st, 2025 to be exact. They want to get out early. They're willing to pay the big money, the exit fee, $80 million each, or maybe $40 million each if they leave for 2024, because they're going to make it up in the SEC conference payouts, and they're going to make it up overall eventually. Okay? So they want to leave early, but they can't because that grant of rights, the Big 12 grant of rights, we are always talking about how the ACC grant of rights are keeping ACC schools in place till 2036, or a year closer to 2036. How it's impossible for those schools to realign themselves with a different conference. Well, the Big 12 and all the other conferences have grant of rights themselves. It's just that they're coming up a lot sooner. The Pac-12's grant of rights is coming up in 2024, August 1st to be exact. That's why USC and UCLA can leave to the Big 10 starting for the 2024 football season. The Big 12 has their own grant of rights. Texas and Oklahoma have all, especially University of Texas, has all sorts of money. They can buy themselves out, but yet they really can't get out of it, right? Unless Fox says, okay, we'll let you go, but we get something in return. And that whole thing is so fascinating, and we're seeing it all play out. Texas and Oklahoma can leave if Fox gets something in return. And what Fox is talking about is, and here is the article. We'll get that article up and running right now. Fox report says Fox is blocking early Texas and Oklahoma move to SEC Big 12. Plans to be there through 2024, 2025. Sources told Dodd, this is Dennis Dodd from CBS Sports, that Fox would likely have demanded a return to make its future programming whole, including a top-tier selection of games years into the future, given the marquee programs would have left its airways early. So we're going to jump to the part of the article that I think is the most important. But basically it says that Oklahoma and Texas can leave early, but Fox is blocking it because Fox is going to lose Oklahoma and Texas, right? They're going to lose them. When they go to the SEC, all of SEC's programming, all of its distribution is owned by Disney, by ESPN. They show all the SEC content. So what does Fox get in return if they let Oklahoma and Texas leave early? Fox wants that top-tier selection of games. It's right here. Top-tier selection of games years into the future of the Big 12 content, of the new Big 12, without Oklahoma and Texas. So Fox is really interested in getting that top-tier selection of Big 12 games, which I find great news for the Big 12. Fantastic news for the Big 12. And I don't think it's good news for the Pac-12 at all. We talk about constantly about the difference in payouts that everybody's projected to see the Pac-12 get with their media contract and Big 12 get with their media contract. People are talking about how each Big 12 school is going to make possibly $10 million more a year than each Pac-12 school. But the real gap, in our estimation at Peek Around the Corner, is the gap in exposure. The gap in exposure. Big 12 has an opportunity here. And I can see it in this article and other people's reporting. Big 12 has the opportunity to be Fox Sports number 2. Number 2 conference. To solidify themselves as the number 2 conference. ACC is ESPN's number 2 conference going forward. Right? Big Ten and ESPN has no more deals with each other starting next year in 2023. So Big 12 has a chance to solidify themselves. And what comes with that is the exposure of Fox and ESPN. While Pac-12 couldn't get a deal done with Fox and ESPN right now, and they're putting their rights up to open market, which could include Amazon and Apple TV. All that sounds good, right? Sort of. But man, the risks involved for the Pac-12 is immense. And that gets us to what a lot of people want to talk about. What does the Pac-12 do now? What can they do now? In my estimation, the Pac-12 has to act boldly. If we believe at Peek Around the Corner that it's a no-go for launch for further Big Ten expansion in this window of time. It may happen a year from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, as Kevin Warren has said. And we're going to talk about Notre Dame here in this live show in a moment. But Washington and Oregon doesn't seem to have the opportunity. They tried, and they're going to swing again. They're going to swing for the fences again, but doesn't look like they have the opportunity to join the Big Ten right now. So you would think that Oregon, Washington, and all the 10 Pac-12 schools would want to make the Pac-10 as valuable as possible. And I believe they have to act, they have to expand, they have to claim back part of Southern California, and they have to go grab San Diego State, because I do think, and I'm in the minority, I understand this, but I do believe that the Big 12 could possibly act on San Diego State if the Pac-12 does not. To get Southern California. We know that Brett Yormark wants to expand westward. He wants to get into fourth window. I know San Diego State would be the only fourth window, quote unquote, type of school out there. But Pac-12, man, if this is it now, if it's the 10 current schools, they couldn't get a deal done with ESPN and Fox. They're in the open market for the new media contract. And if they lose Southern California to the Big 12, that's not good. That's not good for recruiting. Arizona and Arizona State, a lot of their students, these athletics, college athletics is the front porch of these universities. There's a part of this that has to do with trying to get the best and most students into your university. And Arizona and Arizona State rely a lot on those Southern California schools. Southern California students that want to come to their schools. And if Big 12 comes in and grabs San Diego State, I don't think that's out of the question. I don't. I know a lot of people think, no, Big 12 is just going to wait to see if they can dislodge Arizona and Arizona State. I think part of the dislodging of Arizona and Arizona State would be to grab San Diego State. I think the Pac-12 has to be careful that the Big 12 doesn't come through the back door and grab a part of Southern California. Pac-12 lost the city of Los Angeles. When the Pac-12 and George Kliavkoff talks about how they're going to have games going forward in the Pac-12 in the city of Los Angeles, they're going to have these events where they're going to have possibly a football game between two Pac-12 schools in the city of Los Angeles. Come on. To me, that just sounds absolutely ridiculous. Can't do that. It's going to be embarrassing. Just, you lost the city of Los Angeles, but do not lose Southern California to the Big 12. They cannot have feet of clay in this situation. Pac-12 cannot have feet of clay. Brett Yormark, man, and you know, his language. Trust what they tell you. Sometimes you just got to trust what they tell you. The words that they use. Trust, Kevin Warren, we said in 2021 at Flug Empire that Kevin Warren was an expansionist. People blew us off. Kevin Warren speaks like an expansionist. Before he expanded, he spoke like an expansionist. Brett Yormark speaks like an expansionist. He wants to capitalize on this new Big 12. He's hired, let's get into this. He's hired, here's an article of today from Sports Business Journal, SBJ. He hired Big 12 brings on translation to help build more contemporary brand. Big 12 has hired creative agency Translation to help conference build a national contemporary brand as it seeks a younger, more diverse fan base, right? He wants the Big 12 brand to be more hip, younger, cleaner. It says at the bottom of this article, Yormark hinted at the recent interview with the Oklahoman, saying, we're going to make ourselves younger, hipper, cooler, connect with culture in a different way. Hiring Translation is a clear move in that direction. So Yormark is moving, and if he can't get the Arizona schools right now, which he might not be able to, right? If the Pac-12 stays intact, those university presidents probably do not want their universities to move away from these large research Pac-12 universities. So if it stands pat, Pac-12 stands pat, don't be surprised if Brett Yormark goes get San Diego State. Just don't be shocked. Don't be surprised. Now, if you want to kick the speculation on further, if Big 12 would, if, for example, if Pac-12 does act like they should and grab San Diego State, who would be their 12th school, or would they stay at 11th school? That's a difficult question, and I'd like to hear your comments down in the comments section below the video. Before we go any further, please smash the like button, subscribe to our ever-growing channel, and share this video with your family and friends. Appreciate it so much. There's ways to donate to this channel to keep the lights on. There's Venmo and PayPal at the ticker across the screen. You can do that, or you can make a comment, hit the dollar sign, make a comment, and we'll talk about your comment. Different ways to contribute to keep the lights on this channel, but we appreciate your donations in the past and all of your support. We appreciate it so much. The question of Pac-12 expansion gets more complicated and dicey after bringing on San Diego State. Now, who would be their 12th school? Because these conferences, when they expand, as you all know, they like to couple these schools together. Their new schools are like to couple them together, right? Big Ten expanded with USC, UCLA. They're a couple. They are a couple. They will probably play the last football game of the season, right? They'll be the primary rivals in football and other sports. Texas and Oklahoma coupled together in the SEC. They'll be their primary rivals. Rutgers and Maryland were sort of coupled together, right? They always play the last game of the season. They're their rivals together. So if the Pac-12 took San Diego State at the 11th school, who would be their couple? Well, SMU, San Diego State, does that really work? Or would Pac-12 want to double dip into Southern California? Would they take a San Diego State, Fresno State? It's a more natural coupling, correct? But SMU, I think, brings in way more value. That's the problem. But if you look at the Big 12, right? Let's get back to the Big 12. If the Big 12 expands, and Brett Yormark wants to expand the Big 12, right? Plus, okay, we'll get to it in a second, but we have to talk about how reports late last week where it sounds like it's likely there's going to be a pro rata clause in the Big 12 new media contract, which it's going to be easier for the Big 12 to expand. We'll get that later this evening. But if the Big 12 expands and they can't grab a Pac-12 school, if they can't dislodge Arizona and Arizona State, and they go after San Diego State, who would be the coupling? Who would be the couple? Who would be the mate of San Diego State to enter into the Big 12 conference? Would it be Arizona? Would Arizona at that point in time say, man, look, our biggest Big 12, Arizona's biggest sport, biggest brand sport is their basketball program. Big 12 has become a mighty basketball conference. Huge. They just bring in Houston. I mean, and they're already huge. In the Houston Cougar basketball program, it's just skyrocketing in value. And San Diego State has one heck of a men's basketball program, one heck of a coach out there. Would Arizona at that point in time say, okay, we're done, we're leaving, we're coming with San Diego State? I don't know if they would do that. And if they want, Big 12 would have to look at somebody else. But I think the Pac-12 has to act. I'm interested to hear your comments, because if they don't, I think Brett Yormark is going to come through the back door and grab San Diego State. And here's another point, and I'll get to your comments. You have to look at Brett Yormark in these last couple of interviews talking about he wants to do this storytelling. He wants to have a storytelling platform in the Big 12. He wants to tell the story of the student athletes. He wants to tell the story of the universities. He wants major exposure for Big 12 schools. Big 12 commissioners in the past haven't spoken like this. Big 12 has been a horse and buggy conference. They've been behind the times. Even with Texas and Oklahoma in the conference, they have been behind the times. They couldn't get a conference network like the SEC, Big Ten, and then recently ACC. Texas would not give up the Longhorn Network, which was their third-tier network, which was an albatross around the neck of the Big 12. Well, Texas is leaving. The albatross is off the neck of the Big 12. And Brett Yormark is talking about creating storylines. And he's talking about all the way to New York and to Los Angeles and Southern California. So Pac-12, beware. You've been warned. You have to act. You have to act. You have to expand with at least San Diego State. Rebecca Salisbury, nice for you to drop in. I believe, let me know, Salisbury, I believe you are a Washington Husky. I might be wrong. Would you think that the Big 12 would shoot for the stars and try to get Oregon and Washington to make the most money? Yes, they would. Yeah, you always shoot for the stars, right? You always shoot for the stars, and that's where the domino starts. It would start with Oregon and Washington. I just think they wouldn't get it. I don't think Oregon and Washington would be all that interested. But we'll see. It's a very interesting question. I don't think California and Stanford would have any interest. Nothing against the Big 12 schools. We're being honest here at Peek Around the Corner, right? California, and especially Stanford, well, both of them, have stopped certain Pac-12 expansion in the past. Pac-12 could have, should have expanded years ago when they had an opportunity to take some Big 12 schools. But because of academics and research, the Stanford always said, no, we're not going to do it. They won't even take a combo of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. When the Pac-12 came this close to grabbing Texas and Oklahoma and other schools in that possible expansion, 12, 14 years ago? I don't remember when. I don't remember how long anymore. There were schools in the Pac-12 that said, nope, if we're not getting Texas, we're not expanding. And that has hurt the Pac-12. They needed to expand at that time. They needed to get some universities in the central time zone. So, interesting question. Would Oregon, would Washington, knowing that they can't get into the Big Ten right now, would they be interested? Another aspect to that is what Big 12 is going to get themselves a solid, strong grant of rights in this deal. The schools are going to be willing, those 12 schools, minus Oklahoma and Texas, those 12 schools in the Big 12 are going to be willing to sign a very tight, strong grant of rights. Would Oklahoma and Washington, Rebecca, I ask you, I think you're a Washington Husky. Correct me if I'm wrong. Would Washington be willing to sign a strong Big 12 grant of rights that keeps them in that conference without question for 6, 7, 8 possible years in the new media contract? I don't know. I don't know. I think Washington and Oregon would select, because remember, there's going to be a cost, right? If Oregon and Washington ever leave the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, there's going to be that little bit of a cost. No, I shouldn't say little bit, a large cost in separating themselves from Oregon State and Washington State. There's going to be this. It's going to be difficult for some politicians, for some boosters, for some faculties, for some alumni, that whole deal. For them to separate themselves from their sister schools in those two states. I think Washington and Oregon would pretty much only do that if they're going for the big enchilada, to go from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. To go from the current Pac-12 to the Big 12, to do that, I think it's a step too far. But that's just my opinion on that question. Rebecca, probably Boise State, and even go for Gonzaga for basketball. Ooh, that's an interesting comment. What Rebecca is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rebecca, and let me know if I'm saying your name incorrectly. I say a lot of names incorrectly. I mispronounce a lot of names. Forgive me. I believe, Rebecca, what you're saying is, if the Pac-12 takes action, which they have to take action. If they take action and they expand, and San Diego State has to be that 11th school, who would be their 12th school? I think that's what you're answering. And you're saying Boise State. I did not. I should have said that. That's a good one. Boise State, no market, right? No market. Not much of no research university. They're not a research university. This is something that, again, Stanford and California would have to swallow hard to take in Boise State. But you got to do something. You didn't act when you should have. You have to act now, or the Big 12 is going to grab more and more of the market of the college football market outside of SEC and Big Ten. Pac-12 cannot allow themselves to get further and further behind the Big 12 because it's just going to hurt. Not just the money, but the exposure component. The exposure component's going to hurt Oregon and Washington. You can't allow that to happen. You got to get back into Southern California. In our very strong held opinion here at Peek Around the Corner, San Diego State and Boise State, in some aspects, Rebecca, that works better, right? That works better than San Diego State SMU in some aspects. Very interesting candidate you put out there, Boise State. And Gonzaga for basketball. Yes. Rebecca should be the associate commissioner of the Pac-12. Try to do all you can to grab Gonzaga for basketball. Get an affiliation program into your Pac-12 basketball conference. You just lost UCLA. You lost your big basketball brand and everything that goes with it. The t-shirt sales, the Nike, the whole thing, right? UCLA, the history. Gonzaga, look at that incredible basketball program. Jesuit school, private, but you got to do it. You got to do it, Pac-12. You got to increase your branding, your exposure. Another great comment by Rebecca. Grab Gonzaga. You got to be active. You can't just sit back and say these are 10 schools. Brett Yormark's coming through the back door on you if you just sit back. Rebecca Salisbury, BYU was a school they said no to. Yes, they did. And I understand that, but the Pac-12 did say no to other schools. That was a different situation, a different time. They said no to other combinations of Big 12 schools when Texas A&M bailed out, when Texas bailed out, when Pac-12 was trying to expand with Big 12 schools. Oklahoma was still willing to go, but Pac-12 said, no, if Texas is not coming, we're not going to take anybody. Big mistake from the Pac-12. Rebecca, I have a friend in the University of Washington athletic department. They aren't willing to sign anything really over 5 years right now as a grant of rights. Thanks for that information. Boy, I tell you. And that's just another advantage that the Big 12 has. Oregon and Washington are not going to be willing to sign any decent long-term deal. And I don't think they're going to sign something that really has any teeth to it, which means the value of their media package with whatever media partners they agree on is not going to be as valuable as it could have, because those media partners, media companies want a strong grant of rights in place. So, University of Washington, I agree, Rebecca, they're going to keep swinging to get into the Big Ten. Because it's a no-go for launch right now for the Big 12, doesn't mean there isn't strong interest in Washington and Oregon from the Big Ten. There is. We had our own intel at Peek Around the Corner about Washington and Oregon. We had it 1 or 2 days after the USC UCLA news broke. We had it in mid-July, late July, August. We kept saying that there's strong interest. We were told that there was still strong interest throughout this whole thing. We said there was a decision window from August 15th to October 15th, and the decision was a no-go for launch here late in mid-October. For reasons we don't quite know yet. Is it because Kevin Warren couldn't swing enough votes in the Big Ten? Was it because they couldn't get the money amount from Amazon? Is it because they want to wait 24 months, 12 months? They still want to wait for Notre Dame. But right now it's a no-go for launch. But Big Ten has strong interest in Oregon and Washington. Many different reasons. One of the big motivations is the travel issue, because it's going to haunt the Big Ten. It's going to haunt them. And at Peek Around the Corner, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the very difficult traveling future of the Big Ten Conference if they just have 2 teams out in the Pacific Coast in a 16-team conference. The traveling situation is going to be untenable for Kevin Warren. and we're going to talk about it at Peek Around the Corner. We do not have any strings attached. We are not the propaganda machine for the Big Ten like we have been accused of being for all these years. No siree. That's not how it works. Tough Tony. Tony always with the big questions. Tough questions. Did you see that Utah USC game? That crowd was awesome. Let's go get Big Ten. Bring them in. Yeah. Utah is a rising brand of college sports, not just in football, but in everything. Utah is an AAU school, an emerging research university. You know, we had more steam at Peek Around the Corner of Utah being the 20th Big Ten school, more than we had no steam on University of California. So we agree with you, Tony. Utah should be, if Big Ten were targeting the 4 schools of the Pac-12, it should be Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Utah. And we actually got a little bit of steam on Utah. Just a tiny bit of steam from the money perch. It didn't go anywhere. We didn't really talk about it that much. I agree with you, Tony. When you're talking about value, media value, future 50 years from now, 100 years from now, Utah, you know, if you're talking about trying to sell that Big Ten network, Fox Sports owns 61% of the Big Ten network. Fox Sports would want that Big Ten network to be bought by the consumers of the new Big Ten schools, the fan base. The Big Ten network would be bought in Oregon. The Big Ten network would be bought in Washington. The Big Ten network would be bought in Utah, in the state of Utah. No question about it. Would the Big Ten sell in Northern California? Big question mark. Big question mark. I don't think it would, in my estimation. Rebecca Salisbury. Boise is also trying their hardest to get closer research-wise to join one of these Power 5. Yeah, I'm sure they are. They're a long ways off, though. Long ways off. As you know, the biggest positive about Boise State is their brand. Right? The quality of football, their intense fan base, even though it's pretty small. I can't stand their blue turf. I can't even watch a home game. I can't watch a Boise State home game on TV. Can't do it. I watch when they're on the road. Can't watch them at home. That's just me. I can't do the blue turf. My eyes, my old brain, I don't know what it is. I can't watch it. I can't watch it. But Boise State, I'm sure they are trying to do everything they can, because Boise State's probably been told numerous of times, you know, but every time they've attempted to call a conference, the Big 12 and the Pac-12, is there any way for us to join your conference to realign with you all? I'm sure they've been told many times, you lack research, you lack academics. And they've probably been told this many, many times. So, sure, they're trying to go forward, trying to build something with research there. I know they had some announcements a few months ago talking about different things about athletic program and their school and their academics. So they're putting a lot of money into it, but they're still a long ways away. Again, interesting candidate though. If Pac-12 expands, and they have to expand, they got to trust what Brett Yormark is saying. Sometimes you have to trust the words of what people are saying. The actual words, when they tell you the truth, you have to believe it. So Pac-12 has to act. San Diego State and somebody, and that somebody could be Boise State. Interesting candidacy. Will do. Nice to see you again, sir. Utah Utes. Agreed, Tony, that USC-Utah game was the best game I've ever attended. Oh, you attended that game. Wow. Electric environment. Still trying to get my voice back from the game. Utes and Utah fans want into the Big Ten. End bad. Well, all I have to say, Will do it, is probably good for Utah that the no-go launch happened right now. There was a no-go for launch in the Big Ten. More time is probably what Utah would need. And maybe, I'm just speculating, all right? We're just talking. You and me, Will do it. We're just talking back and forth here. Maybe part of the reason why the Big Ten didn't go for a launch is maybe they were having trouble with the valuations, the media valuations, trying to get the Big Ten network sold into Northern California. And maybe it just wasn't the right time. I don't know. But the delay definitely can't hurt Utah because Big Ten is going to expand again. Even Kevin Warren says it's not a secret here. It's not a secret. So the delay for launch can only help Utah. Only help Utah. Tony, will Mr. Sinatra be singing if the Gophers beat Penn State? Well, first of all, I am not Mr. Sinatra unless Mr. Sinatra has a serious sinus condition. If you missed it, if you don't know what we're talking about, go to our episode, not 76, go to episode 75, where I had to sing Rocky Top because a volunteer fan said if we beat Alabama, like I predicted them at the start of the season, they said if we beat Alabama, you have to sing Rocky Top. I sang Rocky Top in my very strong northern Minnesota accent. I blew everybody's ears were bleeding after I was done singing. Please don't send me the hospital bills. It was your choice to listen to it. But if you want to listen to it, go back to episode 75, I believe, where I had to sing Rocky Top. Tony is saying, will Sinatra, talking about me, be singing if the Gophers beat Penn State? No, that's not the rules. The rules is the only time I sing at Peek Around the Corner is if a fan requests it before a game plays and says if we beat a top 10 team, if we upset a top 10 team, if it happens, Greg, you have to sing our theme song, whatever top song that they sing at the university. Penn State is not a top 10 team, so I will not be singing any big time Minnesota, our fight song. I will not be singing it at Peek Around the Corner. It does not qualify. But thanks for the question, Tony. Appreciate it. Yeah, the USC, Rebecca's talking about it. The USC-Utah environment was amazing. And all of that stuff is calculated. All of that means something. All of it means something. In fact, let me go through the comments, and I am going to give you just a little peek around the corner. Not around the corner, but a peek in the past about when we broke the news that USC was joining the Big Ten, or when they spoke to the Big Ten. On March, we talked about it on March 31st. We put out videos. There's a Los Angeles Times article on it. I'm going to give you just a little bit of a cloak and dagger, what was going on. We did talk about it on episode 22. A lot of you didn't know about our channel back then. You want to go back in episode 22. We talk about how we broke USC talking to the Big Ten and how it became a Los Angeles Times article. I'm going to give you a little bit of a cloak and dagger. After I go through the comments, if you don't mind, we're going to talk about it. Just to show you how everything matters when it comes to conference realignment, even an environment of a big-time football game like USC in Utah. But let me get quickly through the comments, and then I'm going to give you some cloak and dagger stuff. Rebecca Salisbury, Boise is also a young school. It was a community college like 40-something years ago, I think. Absolutely. Absolutely. And still some people say it's a community college school. That's what people thought about University of Houston for many years. That was their image, that they were a commuter school, that people only just traveled in and took a class and traveled out. Nobody had real ties to the University of Houston. It's still a little bit of an issue there. If you can see their attendance for their football games is lower than it should be because it's still kind of little bit of a commuter school, but they're growing out of that. They're having, I know University of Houston put a lot of money into campus sites for students to actually live on campus. Boise State still has that reputation as a community college, commuter school, that type of thing. But they are growing. This is an opportunity for them, another opportunity for Boise State. We'll see what happens. Again, Pac-12 has to expand. Brett Yormark's coming through the back door. Okay. Tony, I agree. Any expansion delay is good for Utah. Absolutely. Rebecca, what did you think of SEC Commissioner's comments on Wilner and Casano podcast about college football playoff expansion? I just caught a little bit of Rebecca. Correct me if I'm wrong. I do think he mentioned that it was a good thing, that keeping it at 4 schools is only really good for SEC. Expanding it gives more interest later in the season for more schools. I did catch that part of it. I agree with them. I think it's fantastic. We did an episode today on it. What would it look like a conference if the 12 teams, what would it look like today in 2022? We're going to do that every week. I think it's fascinating. I think the 12-team playoffs is fascinating because it has 3 levels of different incentives. The top 4 teams get a bye. The next 5 to 8 would get a home game on campus in the first round. And just to get into that 9 to 12 spot is an incentive in itself. So if you're the 15th ranked team in the college football playoff selection committee going into the last 2 weeks of the season, you got a chance to make the playoffs. And those games you play in are so much more valuable. Regular season games are more valuable under the 12-team playoff system than they are now. The purists have it wrong. I'm sorry. They have it wrong. This time, they have it wrong. So I think that's what Sankey said. Let me know if I'm wrong. Devil Frog, nice for you to come in the board. ACC and PAC aren't merging because of the newly merged conference would lose New York 6 tie-ins and auto qualifiers for the basketball tourney. Good comment. Good comment. That whole basketball thing, the tournament possibly expanding to 68 teams to 96 teams. Wow. We don't cover that here at Peek Around the Corner. We're college football 365 days a year. We'll throw in we'll be talking a little bit about college basketball, of course, but and the New York tie bowl games, that's all going to change under this conference football playoff arrangement. I think that's one of the hurdles to try to get it going in 2024. What do you do with those top bowl games? Many want them in the second round of the conference football playoffs to be the second round host. We went through an example of that today. Like Alabama and Oklahoma State, they'd be the 7th and 10th seed, right? We're just pretending here, right? If the season ended now, all that stuff, and they'd play the winner of Alabama, Oklahoma State would play Ohio State in the second round. That game would probably be played in the Rose Bowl. Clemson, the 3rd seed, that game in the second round, whoever would come out of Michigan and Ole Miss, I believe, or whoever wins that first round, play Clemson. That would probably be played in the Orange Bowl. The winner of UCLA and Oregon would play Georgia. That second round game would probably be played in the Sugar Bowl. Tennessee versus Cincinnati, 5 and 12 seed. The winner of that would play 4 seed TCU. That would probably be played in the Cotton Bowl. So everything is going to change. That's the problem. Everything is going to change, and nothing is official yet. Rebecca, he goes into greater detail, but yeah, for the SEC, they didn't care because they would be fine no matter what. Yeah. And you know what? If the season ended right now in 2022 and we had a conference football playoffs, 4 SEC teams would make the playoffs out of the 12 teams, 12 schools. 4 of them. Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Ole Miss. So you're going to see that a lot. So SEC would have no problems with it, with the expanded playoffs. Now, let me just tell you, we had an interesting question, and I'll get back to your comments here. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you so much. Please smash the like button. If you like our content, please share the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. Please subscribe to our channel. It helps with the algorithms of YouTube so much. We talked about the great environment of USC and USC in the Utah game, where Utah went for 2. They won the game 43-42. Fantastic game. And we talked about how this no-go for launch for the Big Ten, that can only help Utah, right? We're just talking here. We're just speculating. All of that matters. Sentiment matters. The fan base sentiment matters. The Big Ten fan bases, what they're thinking matters. Now, you're going to say, Greg, you're crazy. You're crazy. They don't care what we think. This is all big corporate money, sponsorship money. Okay? They don't care what we think. They do. They actually do. When we broke on March 31st, I got a call from BTM. He's our source, and his associates are our source. We just call them the Money Perch. They look at things from the Money Perch. If you need more information about that, go to Flug Empire, go to our pin tweet, and you can read all about it in the article of the Los Angeles Times. We were told March 31st that USC called the Big Ten. They want into the Big Ten. These are all the reasons why they want in the Big Ten. But Greg, just so you know, we were requesting you to put out a couple of tweets on it. Big Money Perch people wanted this out there because they wanted... I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this. You can read the Los Angeles Times article that's in my pin tweet. But the Big Ten was tracking Flug Empire, our Twitter account. A certain official documented 9 different times. Every time we brought up USC, the Big Ten, we were documented. We were followed. We were bookmarked in a couple of different ways. We sent this information out in real time during when it was happening to Minnesota 247, USC 247, media sites, huge media sites, and to All Eyes on Big Ten podcast with Big Kurt and Jeffrey the Greek. We sent all this out in real time, this documentation. One of the things we learned during this whole process from March, April, May, June, and going forward is the Big Ten, they take a look at communications of the fans and they track it and they calculate it. I know this sounds crazy, but it's true. They want to know what the Big Ten fans are thinking, what they are thinking. So, just to give you an example, and this blew everybody's mind. This blew everybody's mind when it happened, and I believe it happened on July 1st. I might be wrong. It might have happened July 2nd. If you want to go back and do a Twitter advanced search on it, you can. July 1st or July 2nd. A day, 24 or 48 hours after it was announced that USC and UCLA were joining the Big Ten, Fox Sports college football Twitter account. Fox Sports college football Twitter account put out a tweet and it said, who would you like, Big Ten fan bases, who would you like for the Big Ten to add next to the conference? And they gave a list of candidates. They had their logos. And national reporters, college football national reporters said, "Oh my goodness, look at this. I cannot believe they just did this. How can Fox Sports, not even, Fox Sports owns 61% of the Big Ten network, but of course it's not a conference. How can they be so blatant? How can they go out so forcefully and say, who would you want next to be added to the Big Ten?" And they had a poll up there, and people voted. And people, some national college football reporters thought, okay, well, this is bad. This is in bad taste. They're going to take it down after they got all the pressure. And I'm sitting there tweeting, communicating with people. I said, nah, this is exactly what they want. This is exactly what they want to know the sentiment of the fan bases of what they want. They do. Because the fan bases are the ones that generate the money for the conferences and then for the media companies. It's our eyeballs on this content that drives advertisers to pay the money to the media partners that pay the money to the conference and gets distributed to the universities. So they want to know our sentiment. So when there's a great electric football game, atmosphere, Utah, USC, that all trickles in. When people are talking about it on Twitter, on Facebook, all that stuff, all that social media information, it all goes to, and the Big Ten is aware of it. I promise you, they are. They have accounts on social media that just track sentiment. People who are hearing my voice, who have followed me for years, know of this because we've talked about it. We've DM'd each other. It gets real obvious. They're digging for data. Data. Part of the data, when they're looking at, when Big Ten, I'm just taking Big Ten for example, because I have this intimate knowledge of what occurs, okay? Because it happened. It happened to me in a very extreme sense, but it's happening to other people. The Big Ten is collecting data. It's not just, okay, what university creates what research dollars, what university, how many tickets do they sell, how many t-shirts do they buy, what would that fan base, how many subscriptions of the Big Ten network would they buy, right? Attendance, how big is their alumni base, living alumni base, how much do their boosters give, and of course the research expenditure money. All of that is calculated, but the sentiment of what people are thinking and believing and expressing, they're tracking all that stuff as well. I know it sounds crazy. It sounded crazy to me. I don't know, maybe because I'm old. Maybe I don't quite get it, right? It sounded crazy to me, but man, it is so real. If you don't take anything out of this live show tonight, take that. Take that real. So, you say, USC, Utah being an electric night of football in Utah, big game, packed stadium, people talking about it. That matters. Now, does it matter enough to get Utah? It's the 20th school, whenever, or the 19th school, the 18th school, whenever Big Ten expands again. I don't know. Utah is a long shot, but they're a live long shot. But all of that fan base sentiment matters. It just does. Okay, end of speech. End of, I'll be quiet on that for now. Devil Frog, TCU should be next. Rebecca Salisbury, that's why they said Washington was easy to rally around. Washington was easy to rally around. We got that intel. Let me get to the TCU first. TCU, they're going to be one of the monsters here in the Big 12, no question about it. Big 12 doesn't want to lose TCU in that market. Again, TCU is another school that the Pac-12 should have probably expanded with years ago. But those Pac-12 universities didn't want to touch TCU. TCU is a small private school. Incredible market, but small alumni. Don't think they're real candidate for years down the road. I think if the Big Ten, and if it's a doomsday scenario, if the Big Ten and the SEC would ever split off from each other, they've had it with each other, and they build their own two universe, then I can see possibly TCU being a candidate for the Big Ten. Other than that, don't think so. They're not really a Big Ten university, but Big Ten would love to get a school in Texas, right? In the state of Texas. So we'll see. Rebecca, that's why they said Washington was easy to rally around. LOL. Washington was easy to rally around. Rebecca is referring to the intel that we received a peek around the corner from a Big Ten employee at a Big Ten university, and talked about Washington was easy to discuss. Everybody can easily understand the value of University of Washington becoming a member of the Big Ten Conference. Massive research university, very easy. Great market, very easy to understand. Intense fan base, big fan base, fills up their football stadium, great brand, great culture, great everything. Big Ten University, you can see it, easy to digest. And again, Washington is not going to just sit back and not swing for the fences again to try to get into the Big Ten Conference. As Brett McMurphy said, communicated off, as Brett McMurphy communicated independently at Action Network, he said there was preliminary meetings. We believe there were serious meetings between Washington and Big Ten. All that doesn't go away. All that communication doesn't go away. The information gathered by University of Washington, Big Ten, that doesn't go away. So stick with us at Peek Around the Corner. These stories aren't over. It's just a no-go for launch right now at this period of time. It's not happening. Far as we know. We got the word that it was not happening. We trust what Kevin Warren said in public, that it's not happening right now. So, Devil Frog, TCU has the most secondary fans next to Notre Dame, the service academies, and BYU. No doubt. I mean, TCU, beautiful stadium. The holds the correct amount for them, like 45, 46, 47, 48,000. Growing brand, no question about it. Tony, any news on next year's schedule? I assume you're saying Big Ten schedule. No, but man, we got to hear about it pretty soon here. I think they said, didn't they say end of October? And then we're sitting here on October 17th. It's got to happen. It's got to happen. Oh, wait, no. The last report was it could happen in late October, announcement of the 2023 schedule. But I think the end date, like the date where they need to have a decision, was December 5th, something like that, December 2nd. They're having some sort of Big Ten meeting with the presidents or athletic directors. First week of December, I think it has to be out by then. And it's going to be very interesting if they keep if they go to no divisions in 2023, or they keep it like it is now. I think they're going to keep it like it is for one more year. We've talked about this. I don't think they want to do the Michael Scott at the office where they do the snip, snap, snip, snap, snip, snap. I think they just want to change it only once. So stay with it in 2023. Have your two divisions, same type of scheduling format. 2024 with USC and UCLA coming on board. That's when you go no divisions. Probably stay with 9 conference games. Probably have those 3 permanent rivals. And we're going to talk about that at some point. You know, who's going to be USC's 3 permanent rivals? UCLA will be one of them. I think there's going to be something like a Wisconsin. Some school, that fan base is going to travel in mass to the Los Angeles Coliseum. USC is going to want a school in the permanent rival that can just fill up that stadium, which I think Wisconsin's a good candidate. Iowa's a good candidate. I think Nebraska's going to be one of UCLA's permanent rivals. But we'll talk about that more in the coming days. But yeah, all that should be happening soon. It should happen soon. TCU does have an amazing, beautiful campus. You are correct, Rebecca. We lost. Gophers lost Max Duggan in a recruiting war with TCU. And part of the reason why Max Duggan loved the TCU campus. He loved the TCU campus, and he loved the closeness of it all and the small community. That's what the Minnesota Golden Gophers thought that they wanted, that they were going to get Max Duggan. It was done deal. It was going to happen. He was going to commit to the Gophers. And then Max Duggan and his father went down to TCU campus, and he fell in love with it, and we lost him. And see what Max Duggan is doing now. I put up Rebecca, you lit me on fire here with that Max Duggan comment. Let me post it here. This kills me. Look at this. Look at this. I put this up there. We see you, TCU. I put it up there at 7 o'clock this morning. Max Duggan, 69.5% passing completion. 1,591 passing yards. 16 touchdown passes. Only one interception. A 179.9 quarterback rating. 261 yards rushing. Oh, did I mention he runs like the wind? 4 TD rushing. Of course, Kendra Miller's playing brilliant, 6.4, the running back. And then Quentin Johnston, the great wide receiver. Max Duggan, I'm telling you, if he was a Gopher, Gophers would have won the Big Ten West title under PJ Fleck. So that kills me, man. That kills me. I have sorry, I got to go back here. We have a tweet. Well, no. Looks like they deleted the tweet. Here we go. Scotty Duck, who's been on this, who's been in our comments section before, says multiple Ohio State insiders on Buckeye Scoop are saying Oregon and Washington reduced payout done deals and to be announced after final media contract signed. Did BTM explicitly say expansion is a no-go? Well, let me answer that question. We are doing a live show. Do we have breaking news during a live show? It's happened before, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just go down this pathway, see what's going on here. We are doing a live show right now. Please enter the chat and explain. Thanks. He knows, Scotty Duck knows, I believe he knows Peek Around the Corner. He's been here. We'll get back to that in a second. Devil Frog. Max had a career-threatening medical heart issue that threatened his career. He also played last season with a broken foot. Yeah, I know. Yes. He's been banged up, hurt, had that issue. But man, he's a gamer. He's an athlete. I watched so much high school tape of him. He played, I keep forgetting the big town he played, the border of Iowa and Nebraska. I can't quite remember it. I watched so much tape of him because we were going to get him. Gophers were, Iowa couldn't get him. Nebraska couldn't land him. Gophers were the front runners. Gophers were going to get him. And suddenly TCU comes at the last moment. It was the very last moment. And Max Duggan, father, fell in love with Gary Patterson. But Max Duggan made a whole big interview saying he got onto that campus and fell in love with it. And bam, he was a Horned Frog. Broke my heart. But that's what a Gopher heart is all about, is to be broken. Now, Rebecca says, I think she's referring to the Scotty Duck tweet. That sounds like what another friend of mine at Wazoo said, Washington State. They thought University of Washington, Oregon were gone weeks ago. Pine Bluff, I think he might devil. I think is it Pine? Maybe it is Pine Bluff. You could be correct. Rebecca, I would say this. We at Peek Around the Corner never, ever, ever got the intel that says Oregon and Washington are going to the Big Ten. We said right after June 30th, right after July 1st, we said Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Notre Dame were the targets. And that Big Ten didn't want to be done expanding. And the Big Ten, one of the motivations was travel issues. Kevin Warren wants to expand to 20. This is before the national reporters were talking about it. And boy, I got the sling and the arrows from a lot of people, even though we just broke the USC thing, because we were getting this information, right, from the same money perch, right? So this whole process was, and remember, if you're Washington and Oregon fans, in early August, it was reported by Dennis Dodd, CBS, and others. I don't want to name other names, but there were others who said Big Ten had cooled on Washington and Oregon. And we said, no, they hadn't cooled on them. They hadn't cooled on them. The process was just starting with them. It was just starting. In fact, the formal process kind of started around August 15th. That was the start of this decision window. So, sorry to say, but a lot of national reporters got this story wrong, just like they got the USC wrong. But we never could get that piece where it was Oregon and Washington agreed it's a done deal to go to the Big Ten. We never got it. We never got it. In fact, if you remember, or if you want to go back into our YouTube channel, you will see in a live show on Friday, I think it was Friday, where Rick Neuheisel, we covered it. We covered it in a live show. Rick Neuheisel, breaking news, ESPN Radio, says he believed that Oregon and Washington was basically, I'm paraphrasing, basically a done deal with the Big Ten. We were asked right on that live show by people commenting in the comment section, Greg, do you have that intel? Greg, do you have that intel? No, we don't. If we did, we would say it. We don't hold back. No strings attached, right? We say it. We're out in front of a lot of things. Peek Around the Corner. That's why we name our channel that. But we didn't get it. Now, going back to Buckeye Scoop. I don't know who's part of Buckeye Scoop anymore. I think there was a Kevin Noon who I really liked, the Ohio State beat writer. I'm not getting any messages back here from Scotty Duck. But I don't think he's part of that group anymore. I don't know if they're talking about the insider Nevada Buck. I don't know. If someone can get into that and come back to the chat and let me know what's going on there. Again, the tweet says multiple Ohio State insiders on Buckeye Scoop are saying Oregon and Washington reduced payout, done deals. And and to be announced after final media contract signed. Did BTM explicitly say expansion is a no-go? Yes. Yes, he did. After Kevin Warren signaled saying that it was a no-go, BTM was told that the Big Ten was a no-go for this window of time, that the decision has been made and they'll look into it. This is something new. This is something we don't have at Peek Around the Corner. Again, I don't know who the insiders at Buckeye Scoop are. I believe there was a Nevada Buck. I don't know much about him. People send me a lot of stuff about him. I don't know. We don't really talk. I don't know. We don't have this information. If anybody has this Buckeye Scoop, the phrasing of it, send it to me on my Twitter account at Flag Empire during the live show, or talk about it here in the chat room. Either way, let me know. Give me more information. Sorry, I got behind in the comments. Thanks again. Make sure you smash that like button. That's the way to donate to this channel for free, because donating, for hitting that like button, helps us with the algorithm so much with YouTube. It helps our exposure. Please, thank you so much. Share the live video with your friends and family. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. If you want to donate to our channel to help us keep the lights on, because we're completely independent. There's Venmo and PayPal ticker across the bottom of the screen that some people have taken advantage of. And also there is that $sign in the comments section below. Just hit that $sign. Small donation. Put a comment out and we'll talk about your comment. Thanks. Appreciate all of your support. I love doing our recorded shows, our live shows. Everything college football is important to us here at Peek Around the Corner. Curtis, I'm sorry. I know you put out some comments here. Curtis, Michigan school president, oh no, who used to be the school president of Cincinnati, is pro-athletic. He wants NIL at Michigan to be the standard. How? We do not know, but he insists no one will leave University of Michigan behind anyone. I think what you're saying is that Michigan is going to crank up their NIL program, National Image and Likeness, because as a blue blood, as a helmet school in football, Michigan is behind the other helmet schools in the name, image, and likeness, getting those collectives going where the boosters can put money in. They are behind the other big time schools. If that's his message, I haven't seen it. That's great. The previous president of Michigan left a lot to be desired when it comes to his support of Michigan athletic programs. Just going to say that. I'll leave that alone. Will Dude's talking about Washington's NIL or Arizona. Winningham, the coach of Utah, says that he thinks the top 25 NIL pots will be as the same as the top 25 ranked teams here soon. Wish I was a rich bagman. I would disagree with Winningham a little bit on that. What Will Dude is saying is the larger your NIL program, that's going to tell you where you are ranked as a top school. That would be probably true, except for the fact that these universities and these conferences, as time goes on here, they're going to be doing direct payments to the student athletes. There's going to be increased compensation beyond the NIL programs. It's going to happen. Now, it could be a conference-wide NIL program, but there's going to be multiple layers of different type of direct compensation or indirect compensation from the university and conferences to the student athletes. That world is going on. We talked about it on episode 1 of this channel because it's our manifesto. It's so important to understand why USC wanted to get in the Big Ten. That's the reason why Oregon and Washington wanted to get in the Big Ten, even though it would be easier in theory to make the college football playoffs in the Pac-12 than the Big Ten. It's this changing world of increased compensation for the student athletes by the conference, not from NCAA, but by the conference and the schools. But the conferences are going to play a major part in increased compensation to the student athletes. The conferences are becoming more powerful. The Supreme Court in their rulings have given us a pathway on how it's going to happen. The NCAA, not so good, not so much, but the conferences seem to be the entity that's going to give more and more power and compensation to the student athletes. Therefore, NIL is still going to be very important, but this other stuff is happening behind the scenes that's going to challenge the importance of the NIL going forward. Just wanted to put that out there. Tony, anything new on when Notre Dame may sign a new contract, TV contract with NBC? Boy, I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I'm sorry, I'm reading the contract. I do not know any information on that. No information. Wish we had that information. We'll keep looking for it. I just got it. This article goes more in depth with the silliness around Buckeye Scoop. I know they had some problems. I don't know. I don't want to get into that. I don't want to get into that. But again, we have not heard that the deal is done. We never had that information. Now, there are people out there who have, they troll us and they say, Greg Flugart Peek around the corner says it's imminent that it's, Big Ten's going to expand with Oregon, Washington, whatever. We said it was imminent that a decision was going to be made, a go or no go for launch. We repeated that 1,000 times here at the YouTube channel, but some people like to just, put out disinformation. There's not much we can do about that. If you follow our channel, or if you go back to our previous channels, you can listen to what we actually said. We do not have any information on anything that is done in regards to Oregon and Washington becoming the next Big Ten members. Although we think it can happen in the future. Very well it could happen in the future. Very well it could happen. We just don't have the information that anything is a done deal. Curtis, Florida State is continuing to reach out to the Big Ten. They want into the Big Ten badly. Florida State is a whole different kettle of fish. Very interesting. We're going to be keeping an eye on that at Peek Around the Corner about the whole Florida State saga. We talked about it in the live show, I think Friday, but so many different elements about Florida State. One, Brett McMurphy, Action Network, independently reported that Florida State would be one of the targets of the Big Ten. He included in a tweet, Brett McMurphy put it out there, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami, Florida. He put it out there. And then you have Florida State president sometime in August saying that we are going to aggressively approach or aggressively look at conference realignment in Florida State. A university president was saying that. Not athletic director, but a university president. Florida State president said that. So very fascinating. Florida State, again, we're not a big believer that you can buy yourself out of the grant of rights, and we at Peek Around the Corner are not a big believer in this dissolution theory that 8 votes can dissolve the conference, the ACC conference. We do keep talking about it at Peek Around the Corner because some people in leadership, decision makers in the ACC, keep alluding to it. They keep alluding to it as a possibility. Go back and read the News and Observer article that they wrote, Carolina, I don't know if it's now, I think state of North Carolina, and look at the text messages between Bubba Cunningham, North Carolina's athletic director, and North Carolina's chancellor, Mike Gusowich, and they're talking about it. Go and read that. So, FSU is a fascinating story. We're going to keep an eye on it. Sean Seng said FSU doesn't want to be left out. They definitely don't. Very high value. They would be, like Brett McMurphy, Independent reported, man, if Big Ten could target Florida State right now, today, they would so. They would grab them in a heartbeat if they could get it done like that. But that grant of rights the ACC has makes it impractical, makes it impossible in our eyes at Peek Around the Corner. But again, we're going to follow the story. Rebecca, do you think an ACC school like FSU, Miami, UNC, Clemson will eventually break the gore or just stay until 2033? Again, we just don't see how you can break the grant of rights. Can you pay your way out of it? Does ACC even have to accept your payments to get out of it? I don't think they would. I'm not sure they even need to. Again, we're on the side of not being able to break the grant of rights. You know, the grant of rights has been around for a couple of decades in the college football, college sports space, and no one's even attempted to try to break it. The grant of rights, the document itself, is very, very small. Not many words in a grant of rights document. So it's very less words, the harder it is to break, I guess. That's what contract lawyers have told me. Don't see them breaking it. But we shall see. We're going to cover it here at Peek Around the Corner. Peter Johnson, thanks for joining us. His question is, ever since Utah joined the Pac-12, the games against USC have been awesome. Would be a great permanent rivalry in the Big Ten. You are correct. In fact, the steam we talked about earlier, the little bit of steam that we got in Utah during this Big Ten decision window was that USC and Utah have a good relationship between those two universities. And that's what was given some steam to Utah. Unlike the relationship between USC and Oregon, for example. So there is some relationship between USC and Utah that would help Utah. Cornelius Green, praise the Lord, Greg. Greg, praise the Lord to you, Cornelius Green. Curtis, actually FSU most assuredly prefers the Big Ten. It is Miami who prefers the SEC. I know firsthand regarding FSU continually speaking to the Big Ten. Devil Frog, I think ACC members are hoping and waiting for mass invites from the Big Ten and SEC and then the Big 12, where a simple majority can effectively dissolve the conference by leaving. This is what Devil Frog is alluding to, the dissolving, the dissolution of the conference of the ACC if they could get 8 votes to nullify the gore that is owned by the conference. Because if the conference doesn't exist, how can they own the grant of rights? I have been told by some very smart people that still won't get it done. That those schools would still be obligated under the grant of rights, that they couldn't simply dissolve the conference. There are very smart people on different sides of that question. The reason we talk about it at Peek Around the Corner from time to time is, again, my goodness, these ACC leaders, they keep alluding to it as a possibility. They keep alluding to the possibility that they could dissolve the conference. I mean, my goodness, Bubba Cunningham said to Mike Gusowich, North Carolina's chancellor, something to do with, in text messages, on the night of June 30th, something to the effect of, what's our priorities here? What are we going to do now that USC and UCLA left to the Big Ten? should we even keep all the ACC schools? He said that. He said that to the Chancellor of North Carolina. I didn't get the exact words right. I'm paraphrasing, but read the News and Observer article, Baba Cunningham, Mike Gusowich, Freedom of Information Act that News Observer got. We did episodes on it. Fascinating. Fascinating that ACC leaders keep alluding to the possibility that they could dissolve the conference if they wanted to. So, any new threats from the California board? Again, that's a whole nother story. University of California Board of Regents threatening what we would call a toll tax, threatening to take revenue out of UCLA if they actually join the Big Ten, which they are. UCLA is going to join the Big Ten. Thank you, Will. Smash that like button, please. Appreciate you all so much. Thanks a lot. Again, I wish there was something to do, some more information about the Buckeye scoop. This tweet came to me 25 minutes ago. Again, we don't have any information about it. Just looking, I always get, we get a lot of stuff, right? We get a lot of stuff here at Peek Around the Corner. We comb through it. Of course, 99% of it doesn't go anywhere, but we look at everything. I look at everything you guys sent me. Everything. And it's because, okay, I'll give an example. I think it was Friday Night Live show. We discussed a message board comment from a Florida State, 247 Florida State person. I don't remember what his handle name was. But he said something to the effect of, we got information, Florida State is looking at buying out of the Gore. I'm paraphrasing, of course, but buying out of the grant of rights. Boosters are coming together. They're going to try to buy out of the Gore. And from our perspective at Peek Around the Corner, we look at everything because we started breaking stories on Minnesota 247, started on December 25th, Christmas Day in 2016. And again, you can read about that in the pin tweet at Plug Empire if you want to in the Los Angeles Times. But we've broken a whole bunch of stories, and it was on a message board. People gave us information they wanted out. Again, the money perch. We started doing it on Twitter. We broke the story of Notre Dame talking to the Big Ten to try to get their men's hockey program into the Big Ten. We sent out a series of tweets. I got hammered for it, but we knew we had the information. And sure enough, a couple months later, Notre Dame to the Big Ten. So when other people are putting out information, I'm not going to just say not happening because it's said on a message board or on a Twitter account. We don't work that way at Peek Around the Corner. We insist on not getting captured in our own silo of information, our own information loop. We don't do that here at Peek Around the Corner. We look at everything, even things we disagree with. Example, this theory of dissolution. We're going to keep looking at it. We're going to keep accepting information from both sides of the fence on that issue. BTM and his associates have connections in the money perch all through college football. Not to get any more specific than that. They get information. We look at it. Sometimes we go with it. Sometimes we hold back. Sometimes we hold a little bit of information back. We did through this Oregon and Washington saga with the Big Ten. We have some other stuff that we are holding back because we were waiting to see if someone else says it. If someone else says it along with other information, then we know pretty good idea that that other information is correct as well. There are ways to do this that we have learned throughout the years. just to give you a little deep dive into how we process information. So feel free to give us information at Flag Empire. DM me, direct message me if you don't want it out there in public. I appreciate all your support in that. Rebecca Salisbury. I'm sorry, I'm skipping some comments here. A lot of comments. If you want to make sure your comments get talked about, give us a little donation here at Peek Around the Corner to help us keep the lights on at the Gopher by the Grace of God Studios, okay? So just, if you do put a donation, I will talk about it. But I do get through most of the comments. Appreciate all your comments, okay? So I'm skipping around. Rebecca Salisbury, how long until Arizona State hockey joins the Big Ten for hockey now? Interesting question. Very interesting question. There's a couple of different ways to look at it. One is, we've talked about how Kevin Warren, we discussed it in 2021. Kevin Warren is an expansionist, but he's really an expansionist in hockey. Big Ten hasn't expanded yet, but Kevin Warren has said it in public. He wants to expand the hockey conference. Having 7 members in a hockey conference is brutal for scheduling. If you're not a college hockey fan, maybe you don't realize it, but for an odd number of schools in a hockey conference, doesn't happen very often, and when it does, the conference does all it can to get to an even number because you have these series that you play during the weekend, most of the time. You don't want that odd number. But Big Ten has been stuck at 7 for a while. Arizona State just opened up a beautiful hockey arena, Mullet Arena. I've been talking about it on my Twitter account. Will Arizona State be that 8th member in the Big Ten hockey conference? At this time, I don't think so. We will see. The Big Ten thought they were going to get their 8th team, and they're not going to stay at 8. I mean, Kevin Warren he said this in public. He has said this in public. We're not giving you any secret information. He has said it in public that, he wants to grow the conference much bigger, the hockey conference. Big Ten hockey is actually a revenue maker for most of the schools in the conference. It's not a non-revenue sport. It's a revenue sport after you put up the $100 million that it takes to build a hockey arena. After the big upfront cost, if you forget about all that money you spent, then it can be a little bit of a revenue maker year by year in the Big Ten. Big Ten thought they were going to get the 8th school from the University of Illinois. The last few years, Illinois delved into that, and it probably would have happened if it wasn't for COVID. But this COVID thing has put a hole in everyone's budget. So it doesn't look like Illinois is going to create a men's and women's hockey program. So Big Ten is stuck at 7. They've had a relationship. Big Ten hockey has had a relationship with Arizona State. During the COVID year, or the year after, I can't remember if it's 2021, 2020, but there was a year there where Arizona State played all their games. Maybe it was 2020. Played all their games against Big Ten schools, but they had to go on the road for every single series because they didn't really have their hockey arena. They were playing somewhere, but they don't have the hockey arena that they just opened up. So Arizona State and Big Ten have been scheduling each other. They have a relationship. We'll see where it goes. Big Ten does have affiliate members in their, they have Notre Dame, right? They're obviously not a full Big Ten member, but they have Notre Dame in their hockey program. Big Ten has Johns Hopkins lacrosse, men's and women's, in Big Ten's men's lacrosse league and women's lacrosse league. So there is some affiliate schools that play in the Big Ten Conference. Tony, yes, Arizona State just opened up a new rink. Cornelius Green, Miami is a better fit for the Big Ten. Again, I listen to what Brett McMurphy says when it comes to this stuff. His independent reporting that we all saw on Action Network when he put out that tweet on who the future targets were. You should go ahead and read that again. It was Oregon, Stanford, Washington, Notre Dame, Florida State, Miami, Florida. So there is interest in Miami, Florida from the Big Ten. And why wouldn't there be? Why wouldn't there be? We've often said here at Peek Around the Corner that the Big Ten will end their expansion, the total composition of their conference, going back to the Southeast. Going to the Southeast, not back to the South. Going to the Southeast. And Miami, Florida, not AAU, but a good research university with high academic standards in a great location, right? So I do think Big Ten and Miami, Florida is a good fit. And again, you don't have to be AAU to become a Big Ten member. I believe we've successfully blown that myth away here at, at Peek Around the Corner. Michigan State became a Big Ten member when they were not AAU back in the 50s. It's been done before. Kevin Warren just said this summer that there's no AAU restrictions on a potential candidate. Hopefully that myth is gone, but I still see it in message boards and tweets and even in the chat room here at Peek Around the Corner. Hopefully that's been destroyed. Rebecca, the Seattle Kraken are working with Washington to get their hockey program from club to D1. I would love more information on that, Rebecca, if you can tweet me or give me a DM. I know that there's NHL clubs that have paid for the feasibility part of a university trying to figure out if they should invest in a Division I hockey program. NHL clubs have paid for the feasibility part of it. Like the Chicago Blackhawks paid for the University of Illinois. I know there's been some Northeastern schools who have universities that have had their feasibility studies paid for by NHL teams up on the Eastern Seaboard. So that does ring true to me. It'd be great if University of Washington got a hockey program. I know Kevin Warren would love that. So we'll see what happens. I will follow that story. If you got any information on that, Rebecca, please send me any information, any links that you have. I would love it. A lot of great comments. Can't get to them all. Rory McNamara, sorry I butchered your last name. UW Hockey is using Kraken's North Gate facility this season. Is Washington, do they have like are they HCHA Division 2 or Division 1? There's different levels of the club hockey. Like the University of Oregon, this is their first year moving into the highest level of HCHA hockey, club hockey. Let me know if University of Washington's made it to the highest level. I do not know. So let me know on that. But we're going to close it up here. We've been live for about an hour and 45 minutes. I appreciate all of your comments. I love it when we get together here. We're going to do this a couple times a week. Live show here at Peek Around the Corner. Appreciate we put out episodes almost every single day, pretty much every single day, hitting on all aspects of college football, 365 days a year. please, when you subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell. Get notified, because sometimes we have emergency episodes, right? Some breaking news, you have to look to us at Peek Around the Corner. Sometimes we have that piece of intel that nobody else has, and we get through the hoops, we clear it up, and we present it here at Peek Around the Corner. So make sure you are subscribed to our channel so you can see it when it first comes out. Okay? Again, appreciate all your help tonight. Great live show once again. Until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.